.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. We have a slightly earlier time today than usual, and at the start of class today, I want to talk about a recent request. A viewer wanted to know about the pronunciation and fluent speaking for they have been, she has been, he has been, it's been, that would have been. So we'll talk about how we contract and say these phrases fluently. You can ask questions about this topic or any topic for American accent, intonation, rhythm, fluent speaking, pronunciation. Feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. And if you're joining us later on, not live, you can leave your questions in comments. I'll go through those and get back to you with responses, linking to videos covering your topics or adding your words to my list to cover in a future class. Okay, so let's start taking a look at these. So we typically will contract they have been. These two words contract to they've. The only time that we would keep the have and not contract this is if we want to stress on have. So the typical stress in they have been or they've been is on the word been because it's the verb that comes at the end of the phrase. So our pattern is that we stress on content words like nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and the one that comes at the end of a thought group or a phrase gets the primary stress. We here have two verbs, and both been and have can be helping verbs. But in this case, have is the auxiliary and been is the main verb here, to be. And so that gets the stress. It comes at the end. So typically, they've been is how we would say this. The only time that you would stress on have is if you were trying to, if you're trying to contradict or to give extra emphasis. So for example, if I said they've been busy, they've been there, etc., those all mean they have been. And if you said to me, wait, they have? Then I might say, yes, they have been. They have been there. Or if you said they haven't been there, I might say they have been there, in which case I would stress on have. Otherwise, have is not an important word in this phrase, and it can get reduced. It can get just cut down to the v part. So all we say there is the sound of v. We lose the first two sounds of and a. And the way they've is pronounced, I would probably write that as they've. So letters EY have the AY pronunciation here, and the E doesn't say anything. So oftentimes when we see contractions, we're not sure how to pronounce it, and I often hear people over-pronouncing the have part because they know they've means they have, and then they might do they have or they have, and really you just want they've. No other sound from have except for the v sound. Then the word been has the I vowel. So in British English, you may hear they've been. American English, they've been. We have the same pronunciation of the verb been as we do a bin, like as in a garbage bin or a container. So it has the I vowel, so they've been. If I'm just saying they've been, they have been by itself, then been gets the stress. Oftentimes this will be a phrase, though, that I would use with something else. So they've been busy, they've been happy, they've been there before. You could hear how been gets stressed in that case, but they've been busy, they've been happy. The adjective, again, the last content word of the phrase gets the stress. So then she has been, again, can get contracted. I would say she has been if I'm stressing on has. Otherwise, I say she's been, which just sounds like she's. Letter S, the contracted part of has, keeps its z sound, she's. She's been. So again, she's been busy, she's been going places, she's been talking. Then the she's and the been are both short, reduced, and the final verb or adjective gets the stress. Same thing for he's. He has becomes he's been. It has been becomes it's been. It's just sounds like it. So for these, the she's, he's, and it's, slightly confusing because this is the same contracted form we use for she is, he is, it is. And so you need the context to know that it means she has been, he has been in this case. But we typically use this. So, and in this case, when we have the been, there's no situation in which we say she is been. It's always going to be she has been. If I'm saying she's going, then it's she is going. So the form of the verb following the contraction he's, she's, or it's will tell you what's next. For it's, know that it's going to, when it has the apostrophe, it's going to be it is or it has. We also have it's without apostrophe, in which case it's can mean like its name, its answer. That's more a different form. So apostrophes show contracted verb forms. For that would have been can be contracted a few different ways. We typically will say would have, that would have been good, that would have been nice. Would have, I've covered in great detail in many videos because it's one of the most commonly used contractions that people don't always feel comfortable with. It sounds like would. This is the L is silent, the same as the word would, W-O-O-D. I'm writing it with a U so that you can hear that it has the sound, like book or should or would. Would have, and then we have between the D and the V, we do have a schwa there. So would have. That would have been great, that would have been okay, that would have been nice. You can see I have some fluent speaking videos for that'd be, that would have been, etc. On our fluent speaking playlist. Also, I cover these contractions and more in our Real Talk playlist and our Real Talk course on speechmodification.com. The purpose of that course is to teach you to listen to reduced and fluent speaking in English, recognize where it is, recognize the difference between written words and spoken speech, and then begin to implement that in your own speech for sounding fluent and natural and feeling comfortable when speaking American English. So I hope you'll check those out on the channel and also on our website, speechmodification.com. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see so many of you here today. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go along, or in the comments later on if you're watching this not live. I'll turn to those questions now. Okay, we have a question about the human name, Donald. I guess you could also have that name for a fish or a dog or a cat, but it is most typically used for humans. We also have McDonald and McDonald's, so we'll talk about that while we're at it. So Donald has the stress on the don syllable, and it has the ah vowel. So just like words like job or problem, typically letter O in English will say the ah vowel. You can think about it like the same as the ah in father. So Donald the father has a lot of problems. We're saying the sound with all of those. And the most typical errors I hear for this sound when it's spelled with letter O is that people will do some kind of rounding like an O or an more of a British vowel, etc. So visualize it with that A or that AH, and that will really help you. So you can hear it as da. And then even though we have an A in the second syllable, it's not stressed. So we basically go right from the N sound to the ul sound. It's a syllabic L here, Donald, nold. So in the dictionary, you might see a little schwa there, but basically you want to stretch out and have a nice clear on your da, and then basically no vowel in the second syllable. Donald, nold, Donald. And then when we add the McDonald's, the spelling of that that comes from, it's also sometimes spelled in names with an MAC, but again, another reduced vowel because it's not stressed. So it just sounds like a short little I vowel there, Mick. So almost no vowel again. Kind of I'm going right from the M to the K sound, McDonald. And then because it's actually a possessive, McDonald's, you would add the Z sound. So Donald and McDonald's. Yeah, thank you for that request. Names are often challenging if they're not familiar, if they're not, or there may be a similar name in your native language or your culture that has a slightly different pronunciation. And sometimes when we don't catch the correct pronunciation of someone's name, we have a challenge asking them to clarify for us. So thank you for that question. Okay, we have a question for moratorium. So moratorium, a lot of syllables here. We stress, our main stress is on the tor syllable. But we still have a clear or, it's just going to be shorter in this first syllable. So it sounds like moratorium. So I would write that as more tor and notice that as I go from the E to the I have vowel to vowel linking there, a little bit of a y sound. Otherwise, it's not going to sound like two separate syllables. It'll sound like or moratorium, torium. So torium. Start on the stress syllable to build this. Torium, moratorium. So you see how letter A has the sound. Yeah, okay, good word, thank you. We have a question about just enough. In fast and connected speech, do you pronounce the T in just if it's followed by a vowel sound like just enough? So just enough. Yeah, if I'm just saying just by itself, I'm likely to say the T. Oh, that was just. Just enough. I think, link that T to the next vowel, just enough. If I left it off entirely, just enough, it sounds sort of like poor speech or poor diction. So you're going to end up with, I think, probably either a flap here or more likely a T that's just unaspirated. So it's not going to be as strong. I don't have just enough. Because I'm going to not let that T out. It functions like if I have an ST blend, like if I have the word stuff is a good example. When I say tough, which has the same sound as stuff, tough, I'm going to have an aspirated T because that's our pattern for American English, that when the T starts the word tough, you have a burst of air. When I have stuff, I'm not changing to a flap here, I'm changing to an unaspirated T. So that puff of air is gone. Stuff. It sounds a little bit like a flap in that it sounds a little more voiced. I'm not doing stuff, I'm not doing a D, but it's unaspirated. So same thing happens here in just enough, because I'm stressing on the uff. It's kind of like just enough. Or just enough. So or here doesn't matter as much, probably an sound. But very similar to stuff, this is going to be an unaspirated T, just enough. If I made it an aspirated T, just enough, you can hear that doesn't sound correct. If I made it more of a removed, just enough, also not correct. Flap, just enough. That's the closest, but I think what you want there is an unaspirated, no release of air T sound. So it's still voiceless, but it links to that next vowel. Just eat, just enough, just inside. You can kind of hear some other examples of how that links. So a little bit complicated, with those different T patterns. I do have a video about ST blends and how the unaspirated T works. And of course, lots of videos about how we link the T's, flap them, leave them unreleased in different contexts. That's all here on my channel in videos and also in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. We talk about the T sound, the American T in the beginning, middle, ends of words, when we're linking, all of those details to help you really have correct pronunciation for T in different contexts in English. So great question. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question about the easiest way to identify when letter S makes the Z sound. The easiest way is to look it up in the dictionary. And when you see the letter S, it's going to say the S sound if you see that symbol, and it's going to say the Z sound if you see that symbol. That's not easy to do if you don't have a dictionary handy all the time, although I do recommend having one bookmarked on your phone so you can check, or on your computer, wherever you look things up. There are some patterns for the ends of words where typically if there's SS, it's going to be the S sound. If it's just S or SE, it can be either S or Z. And in the middle of words, same thing. Letter S can go either way. So what I tend to try to teach is to help people recognize in the most common words that a lot of them, was, is, does, etc., you're going to have the Z sound. A few, us, yes, you're going to have the S sound, but you kind of have to learn and memorize. What I think happens is when you start listening for it, listening for the S and Z at the end or in the middle, especially when we're linking, thinking about like, was it, you should really be able to hear was it, as you link that more strong Z sound. It was. You can't hear it as much by itself. For when it says the S sound, it's going to be a strong S. Yes, us. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can really hear that voicing. Was it? Does it? That Z sound is stronger. It was. It does. This one is like a very weak Z sound unless it's linked. So training your ear to hear it can really help. And then especially when you listen to others, and then that can help you develop that ability to tell and use it yourself. But then when you're not sure about the letter in a new word that you're encountering or something that you're saying, if you can't tell if you're saying it correctly or not, look it up. Keep yourself a little running list of S and Z, and also use my videos for specific words and for the S and Z sounds to help you get an inventory of the most common words that we all use all the time. That's also in my Sounds of English course, a detailed help for the letter S and the S and Z sounds. And of course, letter S can also say the zh and sh sounds. So you also want to watch out for that, like in things like visual or measure or pressure, etc. So unfortunately, there's no easy, quick answer for, this is the rule, S is always going to do this here or Z here. If there were, that would be better. But English doesn't function that way. We don't have sound letter correspondence, so not one letter to one sound, and it requires memorization. That's why kids learning English in school, they're pronouncing, if English is their native language, they're pronouncing things correctly, but they struggle with learning to spell words correctly. So before they know how to read and write and spell, they would write the word was probably like that or like that, because that's what they hear, and it would be the same as the word buzz, right? Or they would write the word does that way. Until they learn and are taught how to spell those words, they can hear those sounds. But in reverse, when you learn English from reading and you see was and does, this looks like does or dues, or was, right? So the combination of developing your ear so that you have what native speakers have at the start, which is the ability to hear those differences from what's around you, and then making sense of the spelling. So it is definitely challenging. Great question. Thank you so much. Okay, many of you here today, many questions. I'll get to as many as I can. We've got about 10 minutes left in the class. So your second question after S and Z was about abominable. So abominable. We have second syllable stress. This sounds like a. Letter O says ah. Ba. Min. Bull. Abominable. Okay. And we have a movie name with juror. That's a tough one to pronounce. I do have a video for this. Know that the UR says the sound, and so does the OR. So what we have to be able to do is do two sounds in a row. So juror, and these link together. So you almost have kind of a r sound. Juror. You're just kind of dropping out of that tight R position and going back into it. After class, if you use the search tools on my channel page, you can type in juror and see a longer, more detailed video on that challenging word. Thank you. Okay, we have the question about differently. So even though this looks like differently, we don't pronounce it that way. We pronounce it differently. Differently. So 3 syllables with first syllable stress. So it sounds like unreleased T, ly, differently, differently. So this T doesn't come out, not differently, not differently, but just differently. Same thing with different. We don't say different. We kind of lose that syllable. We just go right from the F to the R, different. I do have a video about that as well. So if you need more details, do check out our the search box on our channel. You can type in any word you want, or you can leave me a comment on any video, and I'll direct you to where you can find that detailed video with your question. Okay, we have a question about change, changed, and charge and charged. So change and changed, we have the A sound, the A diphthong. So thinking about it like che, or even like chain, right? That's change, has the ain sound, change, and then the letter G says the j sound here, changed, jd. So that's a little hard, going from the j to the d, changed, jd. So just practice that, change, changed, changed. But then charge and charged has the R diphthong like car. So you just want to do charge, charged, change, changed. Not easy to do that combination with the j and the d. One thing I'll suggest is try doing charged it, changed it, where the D links to the next vowel. You might find it easier to do that combination than just saying charge or change. That's a way to make a difference between change it and changed it. You'll hear that d sound more clearly there. Okay, great. A question about have been, have beer, going from V to B, that transition. So have been, the first time I put my teeth on my lip, I would say when I say have been, when I do the V, my lip and teeth are together, and then I close my upper lip to go to the B. So I have beer every night. I don't, but that would be nice. Have become, have b. So kind of close the lip, V to b, and then move from there. Also just work on the V and the B sounds separately, like feeling the difference between vet, teeth and lips, and bet, lips together, and then have been. So the V kind of continues in have, have, and until I close my upper lip, have been. I have been there. I've been busy. I've been. So the upper lip just comes down and seals to make the b sound after the v sound, which has a different seal. Very good. Thank you for that question. Okay, we have a question about submerge. I saw your comment about that, so I'll take that off my to-do list since you were here today. So in submerge, we have the same b lip closure for the b and the m sound, but the b releases. So what if I had the just word sub, I would release that b and let it out. But because I'm going to the m sound, submerge, I'm going to use an unreleased b. So I stop the air, sub, and then I release it onto the flowing connected m sound. So it sounds like sub, stopping, and then merge. The ER says just the sound, and the GE says the j sound, submerge. I will submerge it in water. It's been submerged for many years. Great, thank you. Okay. So hidden W at the end of long oo, u words. So words like so we have, for example, the word new, which has the oo sound. And this has a W written there. If I'm just saying new by itself, I'm not doing a w sound. But if I say, for example, okay, this new, same pronunciation. If I say, I knew it, the hidden W comes from moving from that rounded oo into another vowel. So as I move from the oo to the I of it, knew it, that's called vowel to vowel linking. And the W sound just happens naturally because I'm moving from a rounded to an unrounded vowel. Knew it. I knew a guy who blank. I knew a lot when I was younger. So it doesn't have to be a word that's written with EW, but that w sound happens as we link from vowel to vowel. I do have a detailed video about vowel to vowel linking, as well as that's another topic that we cover in our Sounds of English course to help you with understanding linking. So do check out those resources as well for more details on vowel to vowel linking. Okay, a couple more quick questions and then I'll need to go. If I don't get to your second and third questions today, my apologies, but leave those in a comment for me and I'll follow up with you later. We have a question about whether musicians avoid saying the glottal stop and the flap T sometimes. So if someone is singing, they might articulate sounds differently than when we're talking, because when we sing, sometimes we want to make sure that the words are clear for what we're saying. So in some types of music, there's very natural articulation. They might just be singing and they'd say guitar, or that's not a good example, that's a aspirated T, but they might say water, or get it with that flap, or get some with that unreleased T. But when I'm singing, if you think about trying to sing get some, it totally stops the air. So they might articulate get some, as they're singing the song, so that you can really hear what the lyrics are. So it depends. More typically in classical music, in theater, in choral music, we're going to hear those true T sounds. Also sometimes in recorded music, but it just has to do with sung articulation is not the same as spoken articulation. But that's a great observation that you've made. Okay, the question about children. So children has first syllable stress, the I sound, the ch, and then second syllable drin, we're going to have a schwa. So it's going to sound like chill, drin, or drun, children. Almost no vowel there, and then second syllable, children. Yeah, very reduced in the second syllable. And then we have a question about whether or not standard British is sophisticated. I think Americans think British English sounds more sophisticated, but those are just different dialects of English, so you're going to find different opinions from all kinds of different people. There's many, many different British Englishes as well, as there are different dialects in American English and English all over the world. And I would say no, British people probably don't say bro or buddy or dude. That's more typical American slang. Okay. Yes. Okay. So thank you so much. Really great questions today. I'm glad you found me. We started a little early, and I had a mishap on the first live broadcast today. So thanks for returning, coming back. We will be live again probably next Saturday. We'll see. You can check the channel page for the upcoming live streams. Typically, it is a Saturday thing, but we sometimes miss a few here and there. I'll be back this coming week with some new videos, new releases for you, so keep checking back with the channel. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have many free and inexpensive resources for you on our website, speechmodification.com. Thanks for a wonderful class, everyone. It was nice to see you again, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.